Hello and welcome to the first episode of Season 3 of Powered by You. My name is Zino and I'm your host. Today we have a powerful episode in store for you. We'll be diving into a subject that's not only close to our hearts but crucial for our communities. Recently, the multi-talented Idris Elba launched a compelling campaign titled Don't Stop Your Future, urging the government to take urgent action on serious youth violence. To coincide with this campaign, he released a single and music video called Knives Down. Today we're going to explore the depth of this project. So join us as we analyse part of the Knives Down music video and delve into the Don't Stop Your Future campaign. We're going to be sharing our thoughts, reactions, and discuss the significance of celebrities using their influence to address critical societal issues. So without further ado, let's jump in. We have our guest, Philip Lita.
Thank you. Thank you for the invite, Zino. It's good to be back. It's been just a little over a year since we were last here. So it's good to be back. Good to be doing this video reaction to Idris and looking forward to it.
And Waleed, we have Waleed. Thank you for joining today.
Thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure. I now work with RBKC as well, and I'm a specialist in serious youth violence. So a lot has changed since the last time I was here, but a lot of positive changes, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's been a while since we both had you on. I think it was last season, and that video done really well. So couldn't, just not do it again.
And that was my first ever kind of any experience around social media, around YouTube. It was fantastic seeing a lot of my friends and family saw it as well. And so, yeah, it was incredible. And obviously, Waleed mentions the change in what he's been doing and working for the council. Our team, since the last time we were here, has also changed. It's grown, obviously, with Waleed as one of 3 or 4 different additions that we've had into the team. The department, so for folks who might be interested, community safety team is a massive department within the council, and there are different teams within the community safety itself. And our team is one of them. That's the Youth Violence Reduction Service, so YVRS. I'm the operations lead there, and as Waleed said, he's a specialist, one of the specialist violence workers that are there. We also have a community development coordinator as well, who is proactively working in the community, doing all kind of workshops and sessions around serious youth violence, peer pressure and drugs, and kind of educating parents, families, and young people as well. So we've got a lot going on, and this is something new as well in terms of video reactions as well. So really, really looking forward to it.
Great. So let's jump in, and we'll be reacting to part of the music video. We won't be reacting to all of it. Let me just start it now.
So is this the part where he's in the courts?
Yeah.
Yeah, and from what I remember from hearing about the background of some of the people that are there, I think a lot of them, if not all of them, are in somehow tied to the victims of knife crime or violent crime as well. So it's very powerful to see that. I've had my own kind of first-hand kind of experience of being amongst families, not just through work, but personally, who have been impacted by knife violence, and especially deaths. And so hats off to the families that have put themselves into this video and doing this. It must have been really, really difficult. So hats off to them.
And if we speed to the ending, the outro, there is a message to the government. So
yes, I think he makes like 3 suggestions, doesn't he?
Yeah, it says, today we ask Parliament for the following action. Immediately enact a ban on zombie knives and machetes, reverse funding cuts to youth services across the UK, and create a new coalition to end knife crime.
Right.
Yeah?
Right.
So those are the takeaway messages from...
Yeah, and I think that's one of the...
Yeah, and Don't Stop Your Future. That's the name of the campaign, which he mentions.
Yeah, and again, very positive that Idris and the folks that worked with him put together actual, I guess, documented demands and suggestions and recommendations as to what they think would be the best things to help reduce violence, to help reduce knife crime, because sometimes folks, we all want to do something about knife crime or do something about violence and things like that. But with people that do the campaigns or do those videos, they don't always maybe specify or explain how to do that. So hats off for the fact that he's done that, because you do open yourself up to folks like myself maybe saying what part of it is logical, not logical, but what part of it, yes, is making sense, would be a good way forward, for instance, or maybe what parts we can add on to or even make better.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's useful to quickly go over the campaign itself to look at Idris Elba's mission
because he's got a website,
statement.
isn't it? He's got a website.
So here it is, the website which has the mission statement. It used to have, so as if you can see here, I remember checking last week, there was a count-up timer.
Count-up timer.
Yeah, but it's no longer here.
From the moment the video was published?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So the campaign, whenever it started, I think it was 2 weeks ago, there was a count-up timer to show how long will government take to take action, sort of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's quite serious there.
Yeah, very much so. And it's no longer here, which I will expand into why that is.
Right, okay.
So let's go into the mission statement. I won't cover all of it. It's kind of lengthy, but I will put down the link in the description box below. So make sure you check it out if you are interested. So let's read out the part where it says... So, back in August, government promised to ban zombie knives and machetes. But 4 months later, the legislation needed has only just started its slow journey through Parliament. We're asking for the ban to be implemented immediately. Then it goes on to say, we're also calling for a new coalition to end knife crime. We need a group that can operate across party lines to bring together everyone with a role to play in tackling this issue, from government to grassroots organisations, sporting bodies, to young people themselves.
Yeah.
Right. So, and also it made the comparison, let me see if I can see it here, in the mission statement. Something about...
Is it the part about exo bullies?
Yes. Yeah. I can't... Where is it? Yeah, that's what it says. It says, it may seem like we're asking for a lot, but things can move at speed if there's political will to do so. American exo bully were banned quickly because they were considered as an immediate threat. Yet serious youth violence killed far more people than dogs in 2023. So that's interesting.
It is.
What do you take of that?
Yeah, well, I think there's a famous saying, I think by a gentleman, where they said that politics flows downstream from culture. So essentially that the decisions and the laws, or the new laws, or the amendment of laws, or the taking away of old laws, or the changing of, for instance, the knife crime and other things that you can think of that we've had, isn't necessarily as a result of the decision, the kind of the growth and the thought leadership of our politicians necessarily, but it's more to do with the culture of the time and what's going on. And so, yes, part of the reason why the XO bullies or the banning of XO bullies or the making of illegal was banned is because there was a big media attention and focus on it on the back of really, really serious deaths and things of that nature. So those things were pushed through. And as you'll say, I'm sure you're going to say in a moment, very similar to the banning of ZKs and machetes, also has come very, very recently, as I know you're going to point out, on the back of, I think, the campaign, and maybe there's also other campaigns by Idris Elba and all the folks and families that were involved in that.
Yeah, that's a very strong analysis, I'd say. So in terms of, I was going to ask a question, but then I was thinking recently...
Ask the question. I want to know the question now.
How effectively did you think Idris Elba conveyed the message?
How effectively convey the message?
The message for immediate action to ban zombie knives.
I thought it was interesting because, like I was saying to you, it's not just a music video appealing to that we've had maybe previously, appealing to our hearts about putting down knives and things like that, which is the right thing to do. However, the question always comes with these is what action should be done? What's the call to action? And his call to action was very, very specific, where he outlined those three things around the knife coalition, around the legislation being put forward, and things like that. And then, obviously, on the website itself, having the count up timer, where he said, "Look, video was published at this day at this time, and it's going to continue. It's going to continue counting until something's done about it." So it's very much. It wasn't a music video for the sake of being a music video. It was very much. This is the action. We're asking for this action, and we want it to be done.
Yeah, that's true. And would you say it's the first time you've seen something like that?
Yeah.
With a holding government accountable with a timer attached to it.
Yeah. Well, I have to be up front. I'm not like a music connoisseur. So I don't want to. I don't want to say it's the first time it's ever happened, and then maybe there's like a music artist out there that's like, "Hey, I did that. He got that from me." It's the first time me as Philip, has seen something like that. Credit to him and all the families that were involved.
Right. So, what good news is, when Idris mentioned the slow progress of the legislation banning on zombie knives, I'd say yesterday I come across an article, which I'll show right now, from The Standard. As you can see, it says it's titled as "Zombie Knife Crackdown Launched by Home Office with Plans to Ban Dangerous Weapons." So it's a lengthy article, so I'm going to skip through the main part that we're going to discuss. It mentions here the blades were first banned in 2016. But ministers hope these tighter measures will stop some retailers being able to sell dangerous knives and machetes without breaking the law. Okay. So ahead of the announcement, Cleverly met police chiefs in Kent to discuss youth violence prevention projects and joined officers on a foot patrol of Gravesend Town Centre.
I'm sure there was 0% crime at that point in Gravesend.
You never know. We weren't there. So, asked why the legislation has taken so long, the minister said, "We have already taken action to make the carrying of zombie knives illegal. When I became Home Secretary, I made the immediate decision to go further to put forward this secondary legislation to support what we've already done to make the possession of zombie knives illegal and to close that loophole. So I'm very pleased we're taking action now and will be determined to get these knives off the street." The word loophole does make me think, what is he talking about? Do you think there is a loophole?
Yeah, so the laws that actually govern around knife possession is it's illegal to carry bladed articles. So it's ambiguous or vague on purpose, because bladed articles can mean lots of things. It can mean if Waleed, for instance, was to smash a glass door and take the broken take the broken fragments, for instance, and wave it around in a threatening way, or put it in his pocket and kind of shows a particular intent behind it, which is hard to prove, but it's the point. The point is that he could be arrested for that. He could be arrested for that because it's still a bladed article, and could be seen as a dangerous weapon, especially if he's waving it around, for instance. They do specify within that legislation as well what they're talking about. So they're obviously talking about knives that are above the limit of 3-inch knife blades, for instance, foot claws, knife claws. So machetes are actually in it that are illegal, obviously. And so what then, I think, in terms of fast forwarding it to now, in terms of why the ban essentially is a couple things. So certain knives, swords, blades, some of the loopholes, people call it loopholes, but I don't have a word for it just yet. But so for instance, some of them could be seen as ceremonial or props for acting, for instance. Or even used practically. So some people, who might live in outside of London, it's hard for us to imagine this as city dwellers. So people still use, tools, saws and knives to cut wood and things like that. And so those are maybe the loopholes that is alluding to. But also, as you kind of progress forward, is the actual manufacturing of said knives, of ZKs and stuff like that, which again are manufactured. They would say the manufacturers would probably primarily say for acting props and for these other things. They're not meant to be there for young 16, 17-year-olds or adults to be out to kind of carrying around a knife and hurting other people with. So the actual banning of the manufacturing of machetes and ZKs and the creation of it is I guess aiming at the source of where those weapons are coming from.
Okay, I was going to say, let's jump back into the article because you covered some of the stuff here that I want to expand into. So it mentions here that, what was it over here? So James cleverly, he added, we cannot let them be sold to children, and we must give young people a way out of violence. Yeah. And essentially, it's highlighted here that the ban coming into force from September will make it illegal to possess, sell, manufacture, or transport these zombie-style knives and machetes. Yeah. So, in saying that, what do you think tech companies have a role in this environment? Do you think, because Idris Elba did emphasize the need for tech companies to be involved in addressing the online promotion of zombie knives?
Because it's an interesting one it's a multi-layered question, I think, because it aims at the heart of, it's almost saying there's two things really in terms of knife carrying. So, and it doesn't just have to be knife carrying. It can be, for instance, even gambling or betting, where the argument is, if we reduce or if we stop media companies, tech companies from advertising gambling or advertising weapons and things like that, then that would have a positive impact on reducing the element of carrying knives of people being involved in knives. But the other side of the argument is there's also agency and there's personal responsibility, that it isn't necessarily the media companies or tech companies who are responsible for individuals for carrying knives and being involved in violence themselves. And so, and there's also a bit of both things, maybe from Idris's point of view as a music artist. How does, not just him personally, but others, the kind of debate around drill music, for instance, and everybody know what drill music is obviously it's come from Chicago. The idea of being what drill is the sound or the symbol of a firearm is being used in gang violence, and that's where drill music comes from. So would Idris and others advocate then also for the banning or for the reduction of drill music? I don't know. I don't even know if that's necessarily the question. But obviously, he's in terms of getting media companies involved in not promoting the sale of weapons is what he's aiming at, and kind of being able to address knife violence and knife crime in itself.
And do you think it will be this whole legislation put into place? Do you think it would reduce crimes in general, crime related?
That's the $10 million question. I think as a community, as a family, and Mano Walid were able to say in terms of working directly with families where there's victims of knife crime and people who are involved in knife crime. What do families say or communities say? Do you think in terms of would help them to reduce violence in their community, or reduce the likelihood of young people in particular in this case from carrying knives? Obviously, it just pushed very hard for legislation. So banning and making things illegal and things of that nature. I don't know how significant. What do you think families and communities would say? How significant is that, and or are there other things that can be done to help reduce violence and knife carrying in the community?
Yeah, I think. What do you think, William?
Yeah, honestly, I feel like from my role where I work in the community a lot, and I have a lot of direct contact with families and young people who are actively involved in serious youth violence. From the family's point of view, they are really, really lost in terms of they raise their children, and they believe that they raise their children in essentially like really good family homes, and they can't fathom how their young person, their child, has managed to get involved in such serious incidents.
So speaking of resources, he did make another mention about youth services, and I'm not sure if you caught on to that. So he's connecting the cut of youth services to serious youth violence. Do you think that is a strong enough connection?
So in terms of actual research within itself, it's a difficult one when you're looking at I don't know if people have heard the phrase correlation doesn't necessarily mean, or correlation and causation. So yes, in some areas of London, for instance, specifically around London, during austerity, when obviously there's been a lot of budget cuts, not just in youth provisions, but in a number of areas.
Yeah.
Knife crime and violence and just crime in general has risen. But there's also other factors for it. I think maybe a more focused a question from my observations is how significant, if at all, has been the cuts to youth provisions to the actual carrying and involvement of violent crime amongst young people themselves. And so that, again, is quite a difficult question because it's multi-layered. It involves a lot of things, as has been pointed out before, around poverty, yes, around cuts, around family breakdown, and as well as those things. And if you listen to the folks, for instance, that are involved in violence and knife carrying and firearms, for instance, and what they're talking about and what they're rapping about and what they're saying, I don't always hear them necessarily explaining, talking about cuts and provisions. It's more to do with ongoing beefs and troubles and tensions with people that they have rivalry with. But at the same time, for instance, in our borough, our youth provisions are special, and they are an incredible safe haven for a lot of young people who are who may not necessarily have access to resources. In terms of positive activities and going out there and doing things, but also being around positive role models that youth workers are and mentors to them. And so it's very difficult in a shorter answer. It's very difficult to summarize and getting involved. There's incredible heroes in the community that are already doing that. For instance, Carlos, who's being a resident in the RBKC, but Hammersmith as well, all of his life has been part of the Met Police and Youth Engagement Police, but he's been working doing an incredible football project there at those said hours that Waleed was talking about, and into the evenings with a mixture of age groups and genders within RBKC. It's been a fantastic project, very limited on resources. But I've had the pleasure of a while ago now of joining the young people there for football. I was a goalkeeper. I couldn't move for several days after that, but it was well worth it. And it was more than just a football project because he invites specialist services that are involved, for instance, in education, training, employment there, and has been helping young people get apprenticeships and things of that nature. And it's tangible because other young people can see, other young people coming in their high V starts from a construction job they got on the back of Carlos supporting them to get the CSC card, to get to also get into an apprenticeship and a job itself. So it's tangible. You can actually see it. And so there are those heroes in the community that are doing that. And and just like you said, it doesn't have to be necessarily you starting up a whole new organization, and it can be you also as a mentor, seeing young people in the neighborhood who know you, also giving them a word of advice, a word of encouragement should they ask for it, for instance, and supporting them. So all those things are happening.
It's always good to see community activities take place, especially when it's aimed towards reducing youth violence. You being in goal, taking part in these events as well. Yeah, it gives you a first-hand experience. Yeah, and I think my question: are you a good keeper, or would you say you let a couple in?
You have to ask them.
No,
you have to ask them. But I'll say that my reputation's intact. That's all I can say about that. Yeah. And I know, Zino, yourself, you do work in the community, and I've seen you work with the young people and young adults that are there. You've been very, very modest and not letting people know about that.
Absolutely,
but
I think I'll delve into that as the episodes roll out. So, but for now, I think it's about you. It's about you.
A little shout out for Zino and the work that he's doing in the community.
Absolutely.
Thank you, guys. So I'm just conscious of time. Clearly, in this episode, we've covered that campaign that Idris Elba started, and it's proven to be impactful by the results of the news that came out yesterday. The legislation that's been put in place. So my question is, the last question before we wrap this up, is can you think of any other ways celebrities can use their platform to engage and amplify voices of marginalized communities?
In terms of knife crime itself, or
it could be a knife or any particular community issue, but we can go ahead and say knife crime, for example.
In terms of celebrities using their voice and what they're doing, it depends on the campaign and how they're doing it and what their approach is and coming up with a plan. But you're not always going to get everything right, and I'm sure there'll be someone like myself saying, "Oh, you could have done this or you could have done that," and this is the issue. Just go out there and put yourself out there, and if you care about it enough, research it, study it to develop a more educated view on it. And go out there and try and make a difference.
Perfect. So as closing messages, do you have anything you want to say to the viewers or any message you want to particularly say to Idris, maybe? I don't know if that's something that's on your radar. A little takeaway home message.
No, again, I mean, hats off to him again. It's a very powerful video, getting all those families involved. I can only imagine the conversations you would have had with those families around the campaign that you're doing, especially with what they've have been through and are going through, and that they've stood up and did it. There's a few faces that I've recognized from social media of people who are actively involved in the communities and actually taking knives off people on the street, who are incredible heroes as well. I think also that going at the government and services is and to do more is one approach. I would like to see, for me personally, is a direction towards people who are involved in gangs and criminality, especially those that are older and promote violence, and to kind of address that head on without necessarily and being honest and transparent about it. Talking about drill music, talking about violence and why it's done and everything that's surrounding it. So, but it's an incredible work that they've done, and hopefully they'll evolve and develop with it.
Perfect. What about you, Willie? Do you have any messages?
Yeah, I'm just going to keep it short and sweet and just say thank you to Idris for everything that he's been doing within this campaign. It's definitely had an impact. The results are clear to see with the government taking action immediately. And also a message to any young people that are actually watching this, that you don't actually have to choose the life that you're currently going down. I know it's difficult, and I know that it's difficult to not carry weapons. Most people that I am aware of, that I work with, sometimes even carry it for protection. They carry it when I go to visit them. But it's a long process, and the process is going to start with just acknowledging that your life is worth more than what you actually think. Other people's lives also matter. Just drop the weapons and you'll find the light. And if you guys have any questions, I do work in the community, so feel free to message me. You'll see me around, and hopefully we can go forward from there.
Perfect. Well, thank you both for coming. And that is it for another episode of Powered by You. If you enjoyed what you watched, please comment, like, subscribe. And the audio version is available on morleyradio.co.uk.